Anna says, what are your thoughts about sharing past trauma with someone you are dating? I feel it is something I need to build an emotional connection. Or do men not want to hear this type of stuff? I actually just created a program and I'm selling a program right now. It's called Lasting Intimacy. And it's all about this. It's all about it. Well, it's not all about this, but this is one of the topics that I talk about in there. And basically, what I talk about in the Lasting Intimacy program is kind of this step progression of being vulnerable and being like letting these things out for, to a man. And so when you're first starting, Anna, what you want to do is you want to share kind of a little bit lighter, vulnerable things that you have going on. So, for instance, right, one of the ones that you could like, I'll just go with something that I've done because it's me and I don't know you that well, Anna. And so, if I was telling somebody kind of a lighter vulnerability story of mine, I might tell them how I used to be scared to death of heights, right? I used to be scared out of my mind of heights. And then one day I was reading a book about how, like, if you want to conquer something, if you want to be confident, you should find the things that you're afraid of and then face those fears head on. And so what I ended up doing was I went and signed up for skydiving. And mind you, at the time, I was like scared out of my mind of like walking up ladders. I'd get up ladders and it'd like freak me out, and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, I'm going skydiving, right? And so I ended up getting in a Cessna and, we went up and I did something they called static line progression, which means they have a static line attached to your chute, but you go out by yourself, right? You're not attached to somebody else. And so we're up in this Cessna and he like opens the door and he's like, okay, get out. Right. And I get on to the wing of the plane. Right. And I'm like looking down and it's Legoland down there. And I'm like looking and I'm just like, and he does this thing like this, which means drop. Right. And I'm like, no, I'm not dropping. Right. And he did it again. He's like, drop. Right. And so I shook my head again and he slammed the door shut and locked it. And I remember him telling me that if I didn't drop when he told me to drop, that he was going to fly the plane around in circles until my arms got tired and I just fell off the plane. And so, because you can't, like, when you got all that stuff connected, you can't really get back in the plane. And so I ended up just dropping, right? And I was just like, oh my God, right? And I dropped and it like pulled my chute out for me and whatever, and everything was fine. And I ended up doing it 23 more times. And, now I'm not as scared of heights, right? And so that is a story about a vulnerability that I had, right? Where I overcame something. And so you want to start off with smaller things like that, and then progressively tell stories and talk about things that are deeper and deeper. But you want to kind of ping off of him and see how he's feeling, get him to open up about stuff like that as well, and then get to a space where you're both sharing more and more stuff. And at a certain time, you've kind of built this strong bond and this depth of your connection that you can share something that's a little bit deeper, a little bit darker, maybe something that you haven't fully overcome yet, something that you're working on, something that has been troubling you, something that kind of still controls you a bit. And it's not as big of a deal to share that, because you've already gone through this progression of things. Whereas if you're on a first date and you're like, blah, this happened to me and whatever, right? And it's just this huge thing. It can be a little bit jarring for a guy, and it can make him feel a little bit like, it wasn't kind of this organic kind of growth into connection. It was like, and he's like, kind of like, I don't know, maybe some people can do that very, very well, and they can connect with each other very well from just throwing things out at each other like that at the very beginning. And some people are not able to do that. Most people, I'm guessing, aren't able to do that. And so you want to have kind of more of a progression of things. Just find things that are vulnerabilities or things that you've overcome or challenges that you've had in your life, and just make a list of them and start talking about them one at a time, over time, over a series of dates, and see what kind of reactions is he sharing. How does he feel about that? Is it making him feel more connected? Is this kind of a disconnect because he's in a place where he's too superficial or he's not mature enough to really feel that? And then go from there.